Hello, and welcome to the Longev Lens. Please join my co-host, Dr. Sebastian Pedersen, and I as we cut through the noise and hype around longevity, health, and wellness, and turn the latest evidence into honest, practical insight for living better for longer.
And just a quick disclaimer before we dive in, this podcast is for educational purposes only and doesn't constitute medical advice. If you have a healthcare problem, please consult your doctor or qualified healthcare professional.
Welcome back to Rapid Fire number 3. Today, we had some questions about supplements that we wanted to try to bring together, a bit of a general one that we're going to go through into a little bit more detail of what we see in clinic that's actually overdosed, and some other things that can probably give you a lot more bang for your buck with certain supplements like turmeric, omega-3s that we actually test in clinic and find that a lot of our clients are very much depleted and deficient in these nutrients and minerals. So today, that's one of the topics that we're going to be going through with supplements. Thanks again for joining me today, Seb.
My pleasure, Corey.
Where would you like to start? Supplements
I think for me,
today.
I saw the questions come through. I think for me, having an approach to supplementation would be key, because otherwise we're just going to be answering every single supplement every week. So for me, it's 4 things or 4 prerequisites everyone should ask themselves before getting started on any sort of supplement. First one is always supplement. In the word, it's supplementing what you're already doing. So lifestyle behaviors, as well as aggressive disease prevention and proactive disease detection, always comes first. Then once you have your lifestyle behaviors, so sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, emotional well-being down pat, and then on top of that, you add in what I said before with the aggressive disease prevention and proactive or early detection. Then we add supplements on top. So it's really about getting the foundations first. Once you have that, you go to the next step. So you need to make sure you've always been tested before you start any supplements to see, okay, what am I actually using this supplement for and what am I trying to achieve? The third point would be you have to make sure your supplement's personalized to you.
Yep.
So that would be what formulation are you using, what dose, what frequency and what duration. And then the last of my 4 points would be you have to make sure you have an outcome in mind. So any supplement you start needs to be for a particular purpose, and you need to monitor at regular intervals to make sure you actually achieve what you set out to achieve with the supplement that you're using.
What sort of things, if you were going to test those particular supplements, what sort of things would you be looking at? Because again, with our clients, we're finding that omega-3 for one, that's probably one of the biggest ones that we're finding that people are not even halfway to being within a normal range. That's it's quite a massive deficit. And some people are even less than that. They're like a third of, as I said, like if what's the range about, we want to try to hit an optimal dose of about 10. Yeah,
10 to 13, minimum 8 is acceptable.
And a lot of people are in 3 to 5.
3 to 5, great,
Which is pretty wild. So it's the same thing. You come back to, that's something we want to test first.
Exactly. So make sure you, from an omega-3 perspective, using that as an example, you make sure you have your nutrition optimized first. So prerequisite number 1. Number 2, get tested. So get the blood test looking at your omega-3 index. Once you've had that, you move to the third one. Make sure, okay, what type of omega-3 am I going to be using? Am I going to be using an oil? Am I going to be using a capsule? How often do I take it? What's the dose? When do I repeat the test to make sure that my omega-3 index gets at least above 8, but 10 to 13 if we can? And then also, what's the outcome we're trying to achieve with omega-3? So it's brain, it's heart health, and it's reducing inflammation.
Yeah, awesome. And from a nutrition perspective, what sort of foods would you like to start off with before
absolutely. That's
supplementing?
Exactly right. So food always comes first. For me, it's always oily fish or fatty fish, whether that's salmon, whether that's mackerel, but then also like everyone, for a lot of people, they go straight to tuna. But then you have the possible consequences. If someone's having tuna every day, you need to be monitoring their mercury. And so it's a matter of, if you're doing any sort of nutritional intervention, you're making sure that, okay, we want to optimize the omega-3, but also monitor potential consequences of especially having certain types of fish to make sure your mercury doesn't go too high. Yeah,
that's the trouble with, again, coming from omega-3s, because there's like when you're trying to get it from fish, and like the trouble is that a lot of fish that is in supermarkets essentially is farmed. So it may not have as much of the higher quality omega-3s as what we'd like to see. And then, you've also got the other side of it, like the heavy metals part of it, which is going, where do I add it in? So is that where the supplements?
I do find it, because I do, unless you're a pescatarian or you're just eating fish every day, then I do find it is difficult to get enough fish into your diet.
The pescatarians, where they pretty much just eat fish, veggies.
For their protein, exactly. They're usually relying on fish for their protein. But outside of that, I do find it's difficult to get enough good quality fish. And then outside of that, I do find a little bit of supplementation does help.
Yep.
And that's where we help our clients to make sure, okay, what type of fish are we trying to implement? How often do you want you to consume this, to provide a bit of a meal plan to make sure that with the ultimate goal of achieving an omega-3 index of at least 8 to improve their cardiovascular health, reduce risk of heart attacks, reduce risk of cognitive decline, and also to reduce levels of inflammation.
Does it? Yeah. Well, I guess if we touch on that, so levels of inflammation. If you were to have a look at the biomarkers of those, like in blood work, what sort of biomarkers would you be looking to see if someone was to test at baseline?
Yep.
And then maybe 3 months later, what sort of things would you like to see if they were pushing a fish oil supplement or improving their omega-3 rates?
For omega-3 or for inflammation?
Probably both.
Yeah. For me, it's first of all, it's what's the inflammation to start off? Like, where is the inflammation?
Yep.
So whether it's some sort of condition like inflammatory bowel disease, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, or even inflammation like osteoarthritis, where inflammation is part of the problem, why it's causing people pain and thus impacts their daily activities. So once we have all the other treatment plans optimized, so for example, whether that's disease-modifying therapies for rheumatoid or inflammatory bowel disease. Then on top of that, to try to improve their levels of inflammation, also their overall health and function, we add omega-3s or supplementation on top.
Yep.
And then what we'd want to see is the inflammatory markers are going down. We want to see the omega-3 going up into the range we want. And then we also have to make sure that over time, after we've achieved the optimal outcome, we have to make sure it doesn't continue to increase and thus result in toxicity.
And those inflammatory markers, are they things like your
CRPs, ESRs are the main two that you rely on. You can use, if you really want to go down into it, the EPA to AA ratio. So it's like the main omega-3 to the main omega-6 ratio, with some evidence showing that it might be an early indicator of cellular inflammation, and you want that ratio less than 5, less than 1 to 5.
Yep.
So you can use other markers as well, but the big ones are CRP and ESR.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess that'll sort of segue into our next little part of inflammation.
Yep.
Turmeric is usually one that's pretty often, I guess people will see it just advertised, I guess, in social media or people talking about it a lot as well. And it actually does, especially recently, have some really good evidence comparatively to NSAIDs. So things like your Voltaren or ibuprofen and that sort of stuff as well. And again, that's something that you've put into a lot of the protocols with our clients.
Correct.
So you obviously think quite highly of it too?
I do. And I'm use it for my own personal reasons because I have ulcerative colitis. It's got some evidence there. But for me, turmeric is one thing, but you have to make sure that if we're using turmeric as a supplement, we're using curcumin. So the active compound of turmeric, that's extracted. So otherwise, turmeric is only partially curcumin. You have to make sure you're using where the evidence is, which is the curcumin or the curcuminoids. So if someone's buying turmeric, don't buy turmeric like the root. You have to make sure you're getting the extracted compound. But then going through those prerequisites, again, make sure the lifestyle's optimized, disease prevention's been optimized. Then you have to get tested. So for the levels of inflammation, we have to have evidence that there's some inflammation that's causing a problem. And then after we have evidence there's inflammation causing a problem, you have to make sure that the treatment you're on for a supplement is personalized. And for curcumin, that's very important because there's a lot of different formulations. You can have powders, you can have capsules, you can have tablets. And just as an example, so if you use curcumin powder, then the bioavailability is very, very low, which means you consume it, but very little of it is going to be absorbed into your body, and most of it will stay in the gut lining or throughout the gut, and then you'll be excreted again.
This is like if you were to put it in like cooking, so like the
exactly right. Yeah,
turmeric,
exactly right.
Yeah,
and we're talking sort of half a teaspoon ish, sort of 2 to 4 grams. But again, if you have inflammatory bowel disease where you want the curcumin to be in the gut and you don't want it to be absorbed, then that may be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want curcumin absorbed, then you can use pepper and you mix it with oil to improve its bioavailability or absorption.
Any particular type of oil?
I always use monounsaturated, so that would be macadamia, avocado, and olive. So high monounsaturated oils.
Yep.
Then, but if you really want it absorbed, you have to make sure that it's a formulation like phytosomal curcumin. One brand name is Mariva. That's where most of it gets absorbed, so it can be more beneficial for rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis. But then you also have to make sure that you're monitoring at regular intervals to make sure that, for one, we're not having any side effects of the curcumin, but also that we're actually achieving either reduction in inflammation if you have an inflammatory condition, or reduction in pain and improvement in function if you have, for example, osteoarthritis.
That was probably the big things that I saw with these other studies. Like you say, that just like the regular turmeric, some studies were almost showing as less than 1% that you're absorbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you actually start to get these formulations that were done in like the higher quality studies. They're actually showing, you could get 10, 20, and like some of those, I think you also said like oil type of formulations. Some of them were getting like hundreds of times better absorption throughout the body.
Correct.
Which in turn meant that when they were comparing to the anti-inflammatories, that people with like knee pain and osteoarthritis, their scores were pretty much the same as anti-inflammatory medications over a 4 to 12 week period. But without all the side effects that anti-inflammatories can cause, like on the gut discomfort and all that sort of stuff, which you'd probably commonly see as well, as that you might need to change the anti-inflammatory dose or need to do something entirely.
That's exactly right.
This is like an awesome little alternative that people can throw into their day quite simply instead of having the anti-inflammatories.
As long as they meet those four prerequisites, always have people need to have them at the back of their mind.
Again, it just has a really nice effect on pain, function, all that sort of stuff. And the other part of it we wanted to touch on today is one that we're finding is overloaded in toxicity quite a lot, because there's really popular supplements out there like the AG ones, I think IM8 and things like that.
AgeMate is another one, I think.
AgeMate, the NMN.
Yeah, but even like magnesium and zinc often have this, what we're about to talk about now as well, just added in that you don't even know it's in there.
And like the big one we've found is that vitamin B6. So what's the problems with actually having too high a B6?
Yeah, so elevated levels of vitamin B6 or pyridoxine, and that's important because sometimes if you look on the label, it won't have vitamin B6, it will just have pyridoxine, and like people will just skip past it. Don't know what that is, so won't pay attention to it. But the problem is that the doses that we're seeing from the very well marketed brands, that people think they need to take these things, so they're consuming significant quantities, resulting in toxicity. So the usual range of vitamin B6, you sort of want it between 30 to 190 units. We're seeing 250, 300, 400, 500. And once you get above 250, you start getting worried, or I start getting worried about peripheral neuropathy. So they can actually cause nerve damage.
And these markers are their blood work?
That correct. It's blood test. Blood test.
So the normal ranges are 30 to
190. It's just below 200.
And they're in the 2, 3.
And we're seeing people like very commonly coming in at least 250. So at least where we start to see, or we can see peripheral neuropathy or nerve toxicity or nerve damage. And they're going all the way up to 500. So double the dose of what would actually be toxic.
Wow. Okay. And again, because a lot of these supplements, they usually pump in like hundreds of % worth of your daily dose, don't they?
Crazy amounts. Exactly right. And that's the whole point of making sure you get tested before you take anything. Make sure the dose is personalized to you, and make sure you're actually taking the supplement for a particular reason and you're monitoring it over time. Because these set and forget supplements that are well marketed, I'm sure they're selling great products, but it doesn't actually have a benefit, and it may actually have a negative impact on people's health.
It's a bit more of a shotgun effect. Here's like your one and done for your whole day. You don't have to think about doing anything else.
Exactly.
Here's all your nutrients, but then again, as you say, coming back to that more of the personalized effect, we're just getting way too much of some supplements, and then sometimes not enough of others as well.
Exactly right.
So I guess for today, if we wanted to wrap up like the big parts of that, so obviously lifestyle is first, because essentially if you're supplementing to fix all of your alcohol problems and the processed foods and high doses of red meats and all those things that can create more inflammation, it's kind of like you're trying to piss on a house fire with supplements, isn't it? Like it's not going to work. It's going to be pointless. So lifestyle first, sleep, hydration, all that sort of stuff. Like really hit those big main pillars. And then if you can't really get those from the nutrients that you're getting with diet and that sort of stuff, then that's where the supplementation should come in and be more personalized. Again, get it tested.
That's exactly right.
So you know where you're at. I found it interesting because I actually stopped taking zinc because I was already I wasn't overloaded, but I was definitely at the high end of normal. And I didn't know that. I've been taking zinc for years, but I didn't know that until we actually tested it and went, okay, I'll stop buying it for a while.
That's exactly right.
The flip side was that I was taking so much zinc that it was depleting my copper stores
Yep.
because they compete for absorption in the gut. And so now I've actually been supplementing with copper instead of zinc. So yeah, I think that's very much underestimated. Of make sure you personalize the supplements that you're actually using.
That's exactly right. And do it for a particular reason. Have an outcome in mind. Make sure you're testing at regular intervals and make sure you actually achieve what you want to achieve with the supplement.
How often would you test if we just
Depends what it was. Some blood tests you can do every 4, 6, 12 weeks. Some you may only want to do every 6 months. So it's super dependent on what you're using.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up there for rapid fire number 3. Next week, we're going to actually be going through more of the neurological, brain, dementia, all those sort of things in part of our long form podcast. We hope to see you there. Cheers.